Have you ever shared something personal and instantly regretted it? Maybe you thought the person would understand. Maybe you believed they'd protect what you said, but instead you felt exposed, judged, or even betrayed. We live in a world where people overshare everything, from their relationships to their traumas, from their money to their dreams. But what if I told you that silence is often smarter than speaking? Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists of all time, warned us about this. He believed that the human soul has a dark side, and that not everyone around you is ready to hear the most fragile parts of your mind. In this video, we're going deep. We're going to talk about 6 very real things you should never tell people, no matter how close they are. Because sometimes, protecting your peace means keeping certain truths to yourself. These aren't just ordinary tips. They're deep psychological truths rooted in Jung's wisdom, and every single one of them can change how you see your relationships, your boundaries, and your inner power. And I promise, if you stay with me till the end, you'll walk away with more control, more clarity, and a whole new level of self-respect. So, grab a coffee, sit back, and let's begin. What you're about to hear might just protect you for life. Thing number 1, your deepest insecurities. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever opened up to someone about your deepest fear, something raw and painful, only to later regret that you said anything at all? Maybe you trusted a friend, a coworker, or even a partner, and you felt safe for a moment. But later, they used your words against you, made fun of it, or simply changed how they looked at you. If that's ever happened to you, you're not alone. Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychologist, once said that every person carries a shadow, the dark, hidden parts of our personality. These are the things we try to keep locked away. Our fears, shame, jealousy, regret, self-doubt. And guess what? Sharing that shadow with the wrong person doesn't bring healing. It brings danger. You see, the moment you expose your deepest insecurities to someone, you hand them a weapon. And even if they don't mean to use it right away, one day they might. Sometimes they'll use it in a passive way, subtly making you feel small. Sometimes they'll use it in a direct way, in a fight, an argument, or in public to shame you. And often, they'll use it unconsciously, treating you differently, looking at you not as a whole person, but as a broken one. Let me tell you a quick story. There was a man named Evan. Smart guy, talented, had big dreams. But growing up, he had a secret fear that he was never good enough. One day, he opened up to a friend. He said, "Sometimes I feel like a fraud, like I'm faking it, and one day, people will see right through me." At first, the friend listened and nodded. But weeks later, when Evan messed up a presentation, that same friend joked, "Well, looks like your imposter syndrome kicked in again." Huh? It stung. That one comment cut deep. It made Evan regret ever saying anything at all. And that's the trap. We live in a time where vulnerability is praised. And yes, in safe spaces, it's beautiful. But Carl Jung warned that not everyone is ready to see your shadow, and most people aren't wise enough to handle it with care. So here's a truth most people don't want to hear. You don't have to share everything. In fact, your deepest fears, your darkest doubts, and the parts of yourself you're still trying to understand, they deserve protection, not exposure. There's real strength in silence. Not the kind of silence that hides, but the kind that guards. The kind that says, "This part of me is sacred, and only the right people at the right time will ever see it." So before you tell someone about your insecurities, ask yourself, is this person wise enough to hold what I'm about to share? Have they earned the right to see my shadow? Or are they just curious? There's a big difference between curiosity and care. Remember, Jung didn't tell us to hide who we are. He told us to understand it and share it with wisdom. You're not weak for keeping things to yourself. You're strong for knowing what's yours to carry and who's worthy of helping you carry it. Thing number 2, your future plans. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever shared an exciting plan with someone? Maybe a business idea, a new goal, a creative project, and then, just a few weeks later, you stopped working on it altogether? You didn't forget. You didn't fail. You just lost interest. like the energy disappeared the moment you spoke it out loud. Well, Carl Jung had a warning about this. It might seem harmless to share your dreams with others, but Jung believed that when you expose your vision too early, especially to people who don't understand your mindset, you risk killing the dream before it has a chance to grow. Why? Because when we speak our intentions into the world, the people listening don't always offer encouragement. Sometimes they offer doubt, subtle judgment, jealousy, or even disguised disapproval. And here's where it gets dangerous. You don't even need to believe their doubt for it to affect you. The unconscious mind is incredibly sensitive. Jung's theory of the collective unconscious teaches us that we are all connected to a shared emotional and psychological field, which means that even one sarcastic comment or doubtful look can sink into your subconscious and begin poisoning the energy you had for that goal. Imagine this. A young woman dreams of opening her own coffee shop. She tells her friends at dinner. One of them laughs and says, "The market's already too crowded. Be realistic." She shrugs it off and smiles, pretending she's fine. But that night, she lies awake, hearing that voice echo in her mind. Too crowded. Be realistic. She tells herself she'll do it anyway. But over time, the fire burns lower. She starts to hesitate, delay, doubt. And slowly, her dream dies not because of failure, but because of exposure. Carl Jung would call this a psychic wound, a tear in the connection between your conscious motivation and your unconscious belief. And it often happens because we let the wrong energy into our sacred space too soon. Now let me be clear. This doesn't mean you should isolate yourself or never ask for advice. But it does mean you should be extremely careful who you share your goals with and when. When a seed is planted, it needs time under the soil before it faces the sun and wind. Your ideas are the same. They need protection. They need privacy. They need time to grow roots. Another danger Jung pointed out is this. When you talk about your goals too much, your brain can trick you into thinking you've already achieved something. It gives you a small dopamine hit, almost like a reward for just talking. So you feel good, but you haven't done any real work. That satisfaction makes it harder to keep pushing. You lose momentum before you even begin. Instead of talking, Jung would encourage inner alignment. Write it down. Meditate on it. Visualize it. Take action before you speak. Let your results do the talking. So next time you feel the urge to announce your next big move, pause. Ask yourself, is this person going to water my dream or poison it? If you're not sure, keep it to yourself. Because silence isn't secrecy, it's strategy. And remember this, real power grows in silence. Real progress happens when no one is watching. Your dreams don't need an audience. They need your protection. Thing number 3, your acts of kindness. Let me ask you something real quick. Have you ever done something truly kind for someone? Helped them, supported them, gave them your time or money, and then told someone else about it, maybe even shared it on social media? If yes, don't worry, we've all done it. But Carl Jung would gently warn us, be careful. Because once you start talking about your acts of kindness, they can slowly shift from being a reflection of your heart to a performance for attention. You see, in Jungian psychology, there's a concept called the ego. And this ego, it loves recognition. It loves applause. It loves to be seen doing good. But here's the problem. When you start feeding that ego every time you help someone, the act of kindness becomes less about the other person and more about how you look. And that's where something truly sacred begins to lose its meaning. Let me give you a simple story. There was a man named Michael. He wasn't rich, but every Friday, he used to buy an extra meal from a local deli and quietly give it to a homeless vet outside his office building. He never posted about it, never told his coworkers. It was just something he felt was the right thing to do. But one day, a colleague noticed and praised him in front of the whole team, and suddenly, something shifted. The next week, Michael brought 2 meals. He smiled more. He looked around as he handed them out to make sure people noticed. And just like that, something honest and silent turned into something loud and performative. Now, does that make Michael a bad person? No, not at all. But it shows us a subtle truth Carl Jung understood deeply. The moment your kindness needs an audience, it stops being pure. This isn't just spiritual advice. It's practical, too. Because here's the truth about today's world. Not everyone will celebrate your kindness. Some will mock it. Some will think you're showing off. And some will even use it against you, calling you fake or saying you're doing it for clout. That's why Jung believed in something called inner wholeness. Doing what's right without needing applause. Helping because it's in your nature. Giving because it feeds your soul, not your image. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with inspiring others to be kind. If you genuinely want to encourage someone through your actions, that's beautiful. But the line between sharing to inspire and sharing to be admired is very, very thin. Sometimes the most powerful kindness is the one no one sees. Think of a soldier who saves a life and never speaks of it. Think of a father who sacrifices his own comfort to provide for his family and doesn't post a single thing about it. That kind of quiet strength, that's rare. So here's a thought to carry with you. Don't let your kindness become a currency for approval. Let it be a quiet legacy. As Jung might say, the real journey is inward, and sometimes the things we do in silence are the ones that echo the loudest in the soul. Thing number 4. Never tell anyone about your financial status. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever told someone how much you make, only to feel weird about it later? Maybe you mentioned your new job or the bonus you got or that your investments are finally paying off. And instead of feeling happy for you, they got quiet. They smiled, but it wasn't real. Their mood shifted. Something in their eyes changed. That's not your imagination. That's human nature. Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychologist, believed that what lies beneath our social masks, our polite smiles and friendly words, is a world full of hidden emotions. And one of the most dangerous among them is envy. Money has power, not just to buy things, but to change relationships. When you tell people about your financial status, your income, your savings, your business wins, it doesn't always inspire them. Sometimes it triggers them. It makes them feel like they're falling behind, even if you never intended it that way. Let's say you're doing well. You've worked hard, stayed disciplined, maybe even made sacrifices to get where you are. Naturally, you feel proud, and you should. But the moment you say, yeah, I just bought a second car, or I'm looking at property in Florida, or we're finally debt-free, someone close to you might start seeing you differently. Not because you've changed, but because they feel exposed. Now they start comparing. They start calculating. They start resenting. And here's the strange thing, they might not even realize they're doing it. This is what Jung called the shadow self. The part of the mind that holds all the things we try to hide from others, and even from ourselves. That includes jealousy, insecurity, and the fear of being less. So what happens next? Suddenly, people start throwing subtle jabs at you. Must be nice to have money for that. Oh wow, someone's living the high life now. You're lucky. I wish I had it that easy. These little comments may seem like jokes, but they're not. They're signals, warnings. They're telling you that your success is no longer safe in that space. And here's the truth. Not everyone wants to see you win. Some people are more comfortable when you're struggling because it makes them feel better. That's why Jung would say not everything valuable should be visible. Protect your financial life the same way you protect your passwords. Share only what's necessary, and only with people who have proven they can celebrate your success without secretly resenting it. You don't owe anyone a spreadsheet of your life. The more you share, the more control you give others over how they see you and how they treat you. Be smart, be kind, but be private. Your money should speak through your choices, not through your conversations. In a world that measures worth by wealth, real power lies in silence. And if you must talk about it, let your actions do the talking. Thing number 5. Your romantic struggles. Romantic relationships are some of the most powerful connections we experience. They shape us, challenge us, and sometimes even break us. Because of this, what happens in love can feel intensely personal, almost sacred. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He believed that the emotional intensity in romantic struggles can stir up parts of our unconscious mind we don't fully understand. That's why sharing your relationship problems with just anyone can be risky. When you open up about your romantic struggles, you are exposing a very vulnerable part of yourself. You might think that talking about your problems will help, and sometimes it does. But there's a big difference between sharing with someone wise who truly listens and confides back with compassion, and spilling your heart to people who may not have your best interests at heart. Jung warned about the danger of projections in relationships and friendships. Projections happen when others see your struggles through the lens of their own fears, insecurities, or past pain. Imagine this. You tell a friend about a fight you had with your partner, hoping for advice or support. Instead, that friend hears your story and starts projecting their own bad experiences onto yours. Suddenly, your personal struggle becomes confused with their fears or judgment. The advice they give might sound helpful, but it's actually coming from their own unresolved issues, not from a place of true understanding. This kind of response can make things worse. Instead of feeling supported, you might feel misunderstood or even judged. Your problems, which are already difficult, can become tangled in a web of outside opinions and emotions. Jung believed that when too many voices crowd into your personal emotional space, your true feelings can get lost or distorted. It becomes harder to find your own clarity and peace. Another thing to consider is gossip. Romantic struggles are often juicy topics for gossip because they involve emotion, drama, and sometimes conflict. When you share intimate details with someone, there's always a risk that your story could spread beyond your circle. Suddenly, your private pain becomes public, and that can feel like a betrayal. This can deepen your hurt and make you more guarded in the future. So, what's the best way to handle romantic struggles? Jung's advice would be to be very selective about who you share with. Trust needs to be earned, especially when it comes to your heart. Seek out people who have proven themselves to be trustworthy and compassionate. These are often not the loudest voices in your life, but the quiet, steady ones who listen without judgment. Sometimes this might mean talking to a professional, a counselor or therapist, who is trained to help without projecting their own biases. Also, remember that not all advice is helpful. Sometimes, people give solutions based on their own experiences or beliefs, which may not fit your unique situation. It's okay to listen, but always filter advice through your own understanding and feelings. You are the expert on your relationship, not anyone else. In fact, Jung believed that romantic struggles are part of a larger journey towards self-awareness and individuation, the process of becoming your whole self. The challenges you face in love often mirror internal conflicts you need to resolve within yourself. This is why sometimes it feels like your relationship problems are more about you than the other person. Sharing too much before you're ready can interrupt this inner work and leave you dependent on outside validation instead of finding your own strength. So, protect your heart by choosing carefully who you let in. Keep some things sacred and private. Your romantic struggles are your teacher, your mirror, and your path to growth. Not just a story to be told. Guard them like precious treasure, and you'll find deeper healing and clarity in time. Thing number 6. Your spiritual experiences. Now, let's talk about something very personal and often misunderstood, your spiritual experiences. Carl Jung was deeply fascinated by the spiritual side of human life. He believed that our dreams, symbols, and inner visions carry important messages from the unconscious. These experiences can feel powerful, even life-changing. They might guide us, inspire us, or help us understand ourselves on a much deeper level. But here's the catch. Jung also warned us to be very careful about who we share these sacred moments with. Why? Because not everyone is ready or willing to understand what you're going through on a spiritual level. In fact, some people might react with skepticism or even ridicule. Imagine having a profound dream or a moment of deep insight and telling someone close to you, only for them to laugh it off or dismiss it as nonsense. That reaction can feel isolating, confusing, and sometimes even painful. It can make you doubt yourself and shrink back from sharing your truth. Jung believed that spiritual experiences belong to a special, almost sacred space within us. They're part of what he called the numinous, a word that means a sense of the divine or something beyond the ordinary. When you share these experiences with someone who doesn't respect or understand that sacred space, you risk losing more than just your words. You risk losing your confidence, your peace, and your connection to that inner wisdom. Let me tell you a story to illustrate this. A woman once had a vivid dream that felt like a message from her unconscious. The dream showed her a new path in life, a career change that, at the time, seemed risky and uncertain. Excited and hopeful, she told a few friends about it. Instead of encouragement, she got jokes and doubts. They told her it was silly to base decisions on dreams. She started to question herself and even thought about ignoring the dream's guidance. But deep inside, she knew the dream mattered. Years later, she took the leap, and that career change brought her more fulfillment than she ever imagined. This story shows us something important. What feels sacred and real to you might sound strange or unbelievable to others. Not because your experience is less valid, but because they simply don't share your level of spiritual awareness. Jung reminded us that spiritual experiences often come with a kind of vulnerability. They expose parts of ourselves that are tender and deeply personal. So, protecting those parts is not about hiding or being secretive. It's about honoring the sacredness of your inner world. If you've ever had a spiritual experience, a dream, a vision, a feeling of deep connection, and you hesitated to share it, you're not alone. And maybe that hesitation is your mind's way of protecting you. Jung's advice here is clear. Be wise about who you let into your spiritual world. Trust people who listen without judgment and respect your journey. If someone mocks or dismisses your experience, don't take it personally. That reaction says more about their own fears and limitations than about you. In fact, keeping some spiritual experiences private can actually help them grow stronger. When you nurture these moments quietly, you give them space to unfold naturally, without outside influence. This can deepen your understanding and make your connection to your inner self more powerful. So, as you continue your path of self-discovery, remember this: your spiritual life is precious. It's a personal treasure that deserves respect. Not everyone will see it or feel it the way you do, and that's okay. Carl Jung taught us that sometimes silence is the best way to protect the sacred. Before we move on, ask yourself, are there parts of your inner world you've been hesitant to share? Maybe it's time to honor those moments by holding them close, at least for now. Let your spiritual experiences be a source of strength, not vulnerability. In today's world, we're told to be open and share everything about ourselves. Social media pushes us to put all our thoughts, feelings, and experiences out there for everyone to see. But here's the thing, not every part of us is meant for public eyes. Carl Jung, one of the greatest thinkers about the human mind, reminds us that some things are better kept private. It's not about hiding who we are or being secretive. It's about protecting our inner world, our energy, and our peace. Think about it. When you share your deepest fears or your biggest dreams, you're opening a door, and not everyone who walks through that door will have your best interests at heart. Some might judge you, some might misunderstand, and some might even use your vulnerabilities against you. That's why it's so important to be careful about what you share and who you share it with. It's okay to have a trusted circle, people who truly listen and support you without judgment. But outside of that circle, it's wise to hold back. Keeping certain parts of yourself quiet doesn't make you weak. It actually shows strength. It means you know your value. You respect yourself enough to guard your heart and mind. And here's something else: silence can be powerful. When you don't feel the need to explain or prove yourself, you create space for growth. You stay focused on your goals without outside noise distracting you. So today, take a moment and ask yourself, are there things I've shared that maybe I shouldn't have? Are there parts of my story that I need to protect more carefully? Remember, being mindful about what you reveal isn't about fear. It's about wisdom. It's about choosing peace over chaos, strength over weakness, and authenticity over approval. You're in control of your story. Keep the important parts safe. Share with care, and watch how your life begins to change. Quietly, steadily, and powerfully. Now that you've heard these powerful lessons from Carl Jung about what you should never share with just anyone, take a moment to think about your own life. Which of these truths have you shared too openly? And how did that affect you? Sometimes, protecting your inner world is the strongest thing you can do. If this video made you pause and reflect, please hit that like button. It really helps others discover this important message. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any deep dives into psychology, personal growth, and timeless wisdom. I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these 6 things you're going to keep to yourself from now on. Let's start a conversation and support each other in guarding our peace. Thanks for watching and being part of this journey. Remember, silence can be your greatest strength. See you in the next video.